Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles Sabansu, and welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamers Pro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, and entertainment. When we give you guys a first perspective on things and how we see them. And today we're going to be talking about them damn Clippers. But before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Also, be sure to hit all notifications to be notified the second we drop our content. Let me go ahead and get into this topic here. I have gotten to the point where I expect mediocre performances from the Clippers. Maybe some of you may remember, maybe some of you don't. At one point this season, before the All-Star break, the Clippers went on a 29-5 run where they won 29 out of their 36 games. Ever since the All-Star break, the Clippers have looked like a totally different team. I remember the first two games after the All-Star break, I went on the channel and I dropped the following comment of, oh, the Clippers been looking really sloppy since the All-Star break. Some people got on me. Oh, it's only 2 games. It's only 2 games. I'm like, all right, they don't look good to me. They don't have that same swagger. They're not playing with that same tenacity. They're not playing with that same level of continuity that they had before the All-Star break. And what has happened? If I look at the Clippers record, for example, over the last 10 games, the Clippers are basically a 500 basketball club. They are 5-5 out of their last 10 games. To add insult to injury, the Clippers also have lost 2 games in a row. So what happened? Yesterday, there was a game between themselves and the Atlanta Hawks. So I tuned in to watch the game. As I was watching that contest, from the jump, just looking at the way they were moving and looking at how things were playing out, I said to myself, I wouldn't be surprised if the Clippers go on to lose this game. And that's exactly what ended up happening. The Clippers end up losing that game to the Atlanta Hawks on their home court, 110-93. They got totally embarrassed on their home court. So after that, I said to myself, you know what? Today we got to produce some content. But first, I wanted to hear what some of the players and coaches had to say after that performance last night. So I did some research this morning, and I was able to get some audio of Kawhi Leonard and Ty Lue talking about the Clippers' performance last night and basically how this team has been trending over the last few weeks. So what we want to do is want to quickly play what Ty Lue and Kawhi Leonard had to say about the Clippers, and then we're going to come back and continue on the show. Take a listen to what they had to say here.
Kawhi, when it comes to habits, like T. Lue said, that team needs to be better at specific things. Obviously, I'm sure you're aware of those things. Why would you feel like it was important for you, Paul, and James in particular, to finish that game with as large as the deficit was?
Just thinking in the future, just wanting to be able to, build in the game. These games are, pretty much like the best experience or, practice you could get for if you're trying to make a push in the playoffs. So, just be able to play and get out there again and see if we could, bring that lead down or get some type of carryover.
And Kawhi, Ty was talking about basically some of the habits he's talked to you guys about that didn't exist most of the game tonight. Why didn't that exist tonight, and what can you guys do to make sure they stay in place all the time?
I just kind of felt like we were in mud tonight, really. That we didn't really give all the effort that we could have gave. I felt like, they pretty much won in transition, you know what I mean? And offense, we were in mud a little bit, kind of slow-footed. So, once we get back on track, we got to look at games like this to have turnovers. I think that was pretty much the game. Like I said, just being the effort wasn't 100% there, and just being a little slow-footed on the offensive end.
You mentioned, this has been talking points for a couple weeks now.
No, longer than a couple weeks.
I was going to say,
yeah.
After the Minnesota game, you said it's been a couple years now since you've been here, the offensive rebounds and the transition stuff. But does your confidence in what this team's ceiling is waver at all when, it's the same message about the same problems year after year and seemingly week after week?
Yeah, my confidence doesn't waver. We have a great team. We know we're a great team. We play to that potential of being, 26-5 and beating some good teams. But right now, like I said, we gotta do the necessary things to get out of this rut that we're in. And so it starts with playing hard first, every single possession. It starts with executing on both sides of the basketball. Defensively, understanding if you're the low man, be the low man. If you're supposed to box out, we just told you 3 or 4 guys are crashing now. It's a different league. It's not the same thing. Teams are playing for extra possessions. So, when a shot goes up, you got to box out. When Zoo goes for a block shot, guard, you got to crack back. You got to help him. Transition, shot goes up, guys, you got to get out of the corner. Things we talk about every single day, we show on film. We just got to execute them, not for 20 minutes, not for 28 minutes, for 48 minutes. And so you're not going to make shots every night, and we understand that. But you can do things the right way. Slot cut, post feed, baseline cut, getting back in transition when the shot goes up. Those things you can take care of every single day, and that's what we got to do for 48 minutes if we want to be a good team.
So you heard what those gentlemen had to say. Now, let me tell you what's interesting. Prior to me even listening to them, their post-game interviews, I pretty much thought what they said. Looking at them last night, you could tell that the Clippers were playing absolutely zero defense. That's number one. Number two, you could see that there was that they lacked concentration. They lacked concentration. Their minds were not really in the game. They were not really executing. Bones Highland made some boneheaded plays, although the other day he had a career high with 11 assists. They didn't play with a lot of energy. Paul George seemed a bit sluggish. Kawhi Leonard seemed a bit sluggish, to use the word that Kawhi Leonard used. And also, they just didn't have any energy. They didn't have any energy whatsoever. So the question then becomes, why do I think this is happening? Well, if we look at the current season, the Clippers probably have about 15 games left to go before we start heading into the playoffs. Maybe they've gotten to the point where they're saying to themselves, we're not going to be the number 1 seed. We're probably not going to be the number 2 seed. So right now we're just playing for position, and we're most likely going to be facing the New Orleans Pelicans in round 1. That can be a certain aspect to it. Another thought I've been having is I don't have the same level of confidence that I had in them a few months prior. Just based off of the way that they've been playing, they don't look like a championship contender. That's number 2. Number 3, here's another thought I've been having, and it's along the same sentiment line that Ty Lue has as well, which is the following. I don't want to overreact. I don't want to find myself in a situation where I'm saying to myself, listen, you're writing this team off and all of these different things, and they get to the playoffs and then they're going to make you look like a total fool. Why am I saying this? Last year, if you remember something about the Clippers team, towards the end of the season, they were playing at a frantic pace because they were trying to avoid the play-in tournament. They ended up being, I think the 6th seed, if I'm not mistaken. And they ended up playing against the Phoenix Suns in round 1. After the first game of that playoff series, we all came to the conclusion like, man, the Clippers could actually beat this Sun team. That was without Paul George. That was Kawhi Leonard and Russell Westbrook. So I don't want to put myself in a position where I'm overreacting to things, and then we get to the playoffs and I end up looking like a fool for overreacting. Something is telling me to remain calm and wait and see what this team will look like in the playoffs. That's where I am with this team. I'm ready to judge them when they're in the playoffs. All right? That's what I am. Now, I don't know how the Clippers ended up being the biggest joke in the NBA, coming from people that their team is most likely probably going to miss the playoffs. I don't know how that happened, but that's where we are. So to me, I'm going to take a wait and see approach. I want to see how things kind of materialize over the next few weeks and see how this team performs in the playoffs. So the question I have for you guys is, what do you think about the Clippers, their current state of affairs? Do you think they're contenders? Do you think they're pretenders? Do you think they're going to be able to turn it on once the playoffs starts, or do you think this is it? Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts in the comments, and we catch you on the next show. Peace.